The ATM machines at the banks formed long queues, the city was crowded, and the gas stations were filled with people. A large number of police officers appeared on the streets, barely maintaining order in Shanghai. If there were no further complications with the sun, the relevant departments were confident in maintaining a harmonious and stable situation. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. On the third day, which was the 24th, morning in the United States and evening in China, the sun disappeared again, lasting for an hour. This disappearance caused great chaos, with crime rates skyrocketing, and even those who were initially skeptical of the end of the world were shocked and rushed to buy supplies. However, at that time, no stores were open, and even the staff at the city's shopping malls are also human beings, and they have long been caught in chaos. People who couldn't buy anything resorted to robbing stores directly. Cash could no longer be withdrawn from banks, and all POS machines were shut down. The whole world fell into extreme chaos and paralysis. In the early hours of the 24th, Andrew heard gunshots, real gunshots, and the rumbling of tanks. The army had entered the city. The situation was almost out of control, and the government finally resorted to military force. Neat tanks and armored vehicles slowly made their way through the city, like a torrent of steel. After warning shots were fired, the rioters who tried to resist the army were shot and killed. Bloodshed continued to unfold around the world, but no one cared about it anymore. Only the government television and radio stations were still appealing for calm and restraint. When Andrew rented this house, he already considered the possibility of the military appearing in such a serious situation. That's why he specifically rented a neighborhood close to the government officials' compound and the wealthy and powerful. He didn't dare to rent directly inside because he knew that after the military took over, they would definitely clean and inspect the heavily guarded neighborhoods. As someone who stored so much food, he might be mistaken for a profiteer and get locked up, so he could only rent nearby, where he could still receive some incidental care from the military, but not too strictly. Through the window, he could see soldiers patrolling with submachine guns, which gave Andrew a sense of security. After his phone call with Jay Den on the 23rd, Andrew made calls to other relatives and classmates. The signal was sometimes good and sometimes bad, but he managed to tell them to be careful and stock up on supplies. He even told them that if they were in danger, they should come to his place, but now it seems almost impossible. The military has taken over the city, implementing martial law and curfews. The military and police are stationed in every neighborhood, and all necessary supplies are transported by the military. Residents are ordered to stay at home and cannot leave until the situation calms down. However, things didn't go as well as the government had hoped. On the 25th, the sun disappeared for 2 hours. On the 26th, the sun disappeared for 4 hours. On the 27th, the sun disappeared for a staggering 10 hours. Darkness, darkness, the global crisis. On the 28th, the world finally plunged into complete darkness, with no sunlight visible in any time zone. On December 28th, 1 hour before the sun disappeared, with good global signal, the president made his final speech in front of the White House. Satan has resurrected on earth, and humanity will face God's test, entering a dark age. Only those who yearn for light, freedom, and love can ultimately emerge from the darkness and return to God's side. Date: December 28, 2012. The world plunged into darkness, duration unknown. Andrew sat dumbfoundedly by the window. Although he had already predicted this day, his heart still had instinctive panic when it actually happened. The world has changed. The rules have changed. Everything has changed. What will the future be like? A brand new era is about to begin. Everything is unknown, not to mention the powerful creatures from alternate dimensions that could appear at any time. All the disasters are just beginning. The only thing that comforted Andrew was that his cultivation finally had a hint of success today. He was able to catch a glimpse of the majestic vitality between nature, allowing him to refine some chi into his body. This bit of chi was not enough for him to draw elemental symbols. He still needed to continue cultivating. Besides cultivation, he had nothing else to do. All communication had been cut off, and the soldiers outside could only use loudspeakers to communicate with the residents. Every day, he would go downstairs on time to collect the rations allocated by the military. Although he didn't need it, he was afraid that the soldiers would notice the abnormality in his home. On his way back, he heard from the experts upstairs that there were riots in several places. The residents who were banned from leaving couldn't bear the atmosphere of the end of the world, so they had intense conflicts with the local military, resulting in many deaths. He even heard about panic incidents within the military. Andrew decided to stay at home, go to collect rations on time, and not wander around. He didn't have the ability to protect himself yet, and he didn't know the power of the only Tor fire elemental symbol he had. Time slipped away in this eerie atmosphere. The weather outside was getting colder, and it had already started snowing heavily. The experts upstairs said that the ice age might be coming. Andrew closed all the windows, but it couldn't stop the cold. The power supply could no longer be guaranteed, and there was only 3 hours of electricity per day. The supply of coal and natural gas had also greatly reduced, with only water barely maintaining supply. Wearing a thick down jacket, Andrew sat on the bed. It had already been the 5th day of the Dark Age. He had barely accumulated enough chi in his body to make a low-level elemental symbol. Regarding crafting symbols, he had analyzed 2 different paths a long time ago. One was the combat route. As his 4th dimensional consciousness became clearer, he increasingly felt that the celestial orbit of the dimensional space was getting closer, and the danger was increasing day by day. He needed to make a 6 armor elemental symbol for defense and stamina enhancement, a firearms elemental symbol to modify a handgun, and a divine weapon elemental symbol for a long sword. With his ability, he estimated that he could only carve 3 of these low-level elemental symbols with the limited time left before the celestial orbit of the dimensional space overlapped with Earth chi. The other route was what Andrew considered a conservative farming type. Similarly, he would make a firearms elemental symbol that could use the power of the celestial and terrestrial vitality in a handgun, and a material storage elemental symbol that could store all the supplies he had been accumulating for the past 3 months. This material storage elemental symbol was 1 level higher than other elemental symbols. If he made the firearms elemental symbol first and then made this material storage elemental symbol, it wouldn't be long before the celestial orbit approached. In that case, he would rely entirely on the protection of the handgun, greatly increasing the danger level. Andrew started to struggle again. On one hand, he feared death, but on the other hand, he increasingly realized that he couldn't stay in these 2 houses for long. He might soon embark on the path of escape, so supplies became extremely important. When Andrew made his decision while touching the ancient book again, he knew that his talent was mediocre. If he didn't rely on the ancient book, at most, he would be just like any other ordinary person without any resistance. Only those with naturally gifted talents, as mentioned in the ancient book, could awaken their 4th dimensional consciousness earliest and fastest in the pure essence of the air, and instinctively utilize the energy of nature. Therefore, he understands that, to him, whether it's defensive or offensive elemental symbols, or a large amount of resources, none of it is the most important. The most important thing is ancient books. As long as he has ancient books, he has the confidence to survive. Moreover, the ancient books are also the most important memento left to him by his parents after they passed away. From an emotional perspective, the ancient books can also be considered as a family heirloom. Andrew thought about it and realized that if he carried the ancient books with him, there was a high possibility of losing them during escape or panic, which he couldn't afford. So, from this perspective, he had to prioritize creating a material storage element symbol, and include the ancient books in it. Then he would seal the element symbol on his body, ensuring that nothing would be lost.